Hi there, my name is Angus Rose. I'm a 52-year-old software engineer, originally from South Africa. I've been here for 24 years, and I'm here in front of the Houses of Parliament on a hunger strike. I've been here for 29 days, and so I've got a very simple demand that I put forward to the Minister of Energy, Clean Growth and Climate Change, and it's as simple as having the UK's chief scientific advisor brief both Parliament and the Cabinet, and to make the briefing available to be televised to the public. So I'm not asking for any changes to government policy nor to any changes to the economy. So a similar briefing was given to Boris Johnson in early 2020 that led to a radical improvement in Boris's understanding of climate change. So that's all I'm asking for. I've twice had the demand turned down by the minister, twice by email and then once in person. So the minister arrived here about 4 days ago, and he again urged me to reconsider. I'm just carrying on because this is such a vital issue. If I were in Ukraine as a Ukrainian, I'd be risking my life to protect my family and my community, the people I love. And so here in the UK, it's the same risk that I'm prepared to take to protect my loved ones. It's my duty to protect my nephews and niece, to protect their future. The government talks big words about climate action, but with the UK's current policies and actions, the UK is heading towards a world that's 2.5 to 3 degrees centigrade warmer, which will be catastrophic for my nephews and niece. So I'm carrying on here. I'm prepared to die if the demand is not met. I think the biggest challenge in this country is the media and it not relaying the urgency of the issue to the public. And that's why my briefing that Parliament and the Cabinet have by the Chief Scientific Advisor, what's so important is that the public is also leveled up so they're aware of the risks. Why? Because the media currently hasn't relayed that information to the public. So there was a almost identical successful hunger strike in Bern, Switzerland, that started on the first day of COP last year. So a dad of 3 went on a hunger strike for 39 days and he was successful. But he spent the first 3 hours, he was at Parliament. The next 2 hours from 12 to 2, he was back where he was staying in temporary accommodation as well, and he slept to conserve calories, and then he was back on site for another 2 to 3 hours. And that's what I need to do here, because otherwise there may be complications a lot sooner. So I arrive here now, say 9:30, and then I leave at 3 or 2:30. But there's such a busy time. So when I'm here, I'm just talking to people, anyone from scientists to professionals to, but when I go back to where I'm staying, it's messaging people, doing stuff on Twitter. There's so much stuff. So normally from about 7 o'clock at night, I have a bit of time where I'm trying to relax, and then the next day starts, and then it starts all over again. So I'm here 7 days a week. Sunday is only about 4 hours, but that's I suppose it just keeps it going, like a hamster on a wheel. I think one of the really good things is because I'm here and there's a lot of people who understand the issue and who support me, I haven't fallen into this pit of despair and depression. And if I was on some little side street there with few people to speak to, interact to, that's probably where I'd be. But what's really happened that's really quite important is if we look 5 years ago, you could barely bring up the word climate change, or the phrase climate change, and even a conversation with relatives or friends. But things have changed really rapidly, and I think in part that's because of other activist groups, because of David Attenborough, because of Greta Thunberg, maybe because of Extinction Rebellion. It's raised awareness. So now, what you couldn't do 3 years ago, you can now do it, you can speak about it. The paper talks about it, although not all of the truth. So yes, it's become more common conversation, but now even since this week, or late last week, there are scientists, really prominent scientists, professors, who wanted to not step into the area of activism because they thought previously it could be catastrophic almost to their professional standing as scientists. They're now going into that. They're now getting arrested. So what we see with activists, climate protesters, you now see doctors, nurses, lawyers, even a few politicians, so across the whole spectrum. But also, another change I've seen is previously the younger generationals were aware or frustrated, and speaking to some younger generationals here, they're getting more than frustrated. They are getting angry. Why did I resort to this sort of extreme potential sacrifice in my life? Why have I arrived here? Why have the scientists in the States done what they've done? Why are there now 14 million, or probably now more than 40 million people supporting, mostly younger generations supporting the Fridays for the Future movement, kind of headed by Greta? Why is this happening? Why are these extreme reports we've seen from the UN, just like why are scientists now saying that maybe we should stop these climate reports because the governments aren't listening? For more than 30 years, especially developed countries, been hearing this all the time. One of the important points there, I think it's worthwhile covering, is politicians, decision makers have had access to information for decades and they haven't acted. So what I'm asking for you here is actually quite different. It's not improvement access to information, it's about improved understanding. So Boris, before he had that briefing, he had access to high quality information, but he hadn't read it, he hadn't studied it, he didn't know the issue. But what the chief scientific advisor did, he distilled it and made it so relevant to the UK situation, the evidence became incontrovertible. It wasn't a dry document, letters on a page. It was a scientist having all of the UK chief scientific advisor as well, distilling everything down for the audience. And that's what I'm asking for both Parliament and the Cabinet and for the UK, and that is essential. So it's not access to information, it's understanding. How would I like to be remembered? So I don't want to be remembered. I want the level of sacrifice to act as an indicator of what level of activism is needed. So the tide is rising. We see activism before was very passive, to sit on the street, but now things are going further and broader. So I think the tide is rising, and maybe this, if I don't make it, it's going to it'll help to set a new level. The thing about a hunger strike is even if it goes bad, where the hunger striker dies, it's actually more chance of being successful. Just like with the Irish, there were 10 hunger strikers in 1981. The most notable hunger striker was Bobby Sands. So there were 10 of them who died, and the Margaret Thatcher government back then didn't want to agree, but they made incremental changes over that time of the hunger striking. But 3 days after the group that was supporting the hunger strikers, it was kind of declared that there wouldn't be any further hunger strikes. It was 3 days afterwards that there was agreement to the demands. So that's really important. So it's not really about me. I think my nephews and niece know that I'm trying to protect their future, right? That's why I'm doing it, right? And I don't want them to lose an uncle. I don't want to lose them. But that's maybe what has to happen, right? Because I think this is bigger than me, hey? It's bigger than us. It's vastly bigger than us. And here in the UK, we've got a unique position. We not only hold the COP presidency, but this is where the Industrial Revolution started. And yet there are people in government who are trying to end our commitment for net zero by 2050. Can you imagine that? There are actually people there, even though we are the sixth richest country in the world, who are still trying to sabotage our 2050 targets. And out of this, the world's budget, carbon budget, some of these people think we deserve a bigger slice of that budget. Can you imagine that? And that poorer countries, the global south, should instead sacrifice their families. They should instead have famines, so the UK government doesn't have to do its job. It's criminal, right? It's criminal. You see the passion that I have? The younger generation aren't going to remain silent. Those in power need to think what's going to happen in some years when the younger generation gets older, eh? They need to think.